take your pride from you. Speak your truth and let your spirit fly, 'cause we can be the healing. When you're feeling all alone, we can be the reason to find the strength to carry on. In a world that's so divided, we shall overcome. We can be the healing. We can be the flower in the gun. We can be the healing. We can be the flower in the gun. What can I say to every woman who was ever told by a man, don't try to reach too high? What can I say to every girl who was betrayed and told to keep the pain locked inside? Wish I could say nobody's ever gonna judge me, and every stranger on the block is gonna love me. No bully in the world is gonna hurt me, but I can't say that today. No, no one can ever take your pride from me. Speak my truth and let my spirit fly, 'cause we can be the healing. When you're feeling all alone, we can be the reason to find the strength to carry on. In a world that's so divided, we shall overcome. We can be the healing. We can be the flower in the gun. We can be the healing. We can be the flower in the gun.
It's like dropping pebbles into the ocean. See them spread ripples around the world. Everybody sing.
When you're feeling all alone, we can be the reason to find the strength to carry on. In a world that's so divided, we shall overcome. We can be the healing. We can be the flower in the gun. We can be the healing. We can be the flower in the gun. We can be the healing. We can be the flower in the gun. We can be the healing. We can be the flower in the gun.
Welcome to Live Oak Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Jennifer Clark, and my pronouns are she, her. I love this church because it's so rich with desire to make a positive impact on our community, so I volunteer each week teaching adult basic education at the Round Rock Public Library with materials generously provided by this congregation. This congregation is a chosen village of all ages where we share our lives and work to become the people we've always wanted to be and build the world we've always wanted to live in. Whoever you love, whatever you believe, wherever you are on life's journey, all who are welcoming are welcomed here. And it is good to be here together this morning. Let's sing, Please Rise in Body or Spirit. This is hymn number 298, Wake Now My Senses, and please remain standing for the chalice lighting and sung response. being lit by Benson. Thank you, Benson. As the chalice is lit, I'd like to share these words from Hecate, quoted by Seneca in Moral Letters, written near the end of his life. I can teach you a love potion made without any drugs, herbs, or special spell. If you would be loved, love. Please join me with our sung response. Bradford Garcia in the role of preacher today. Woo! Renee is a psychotherapist, author, and clinical social work supervisor with over 30 years of experience helping children, adolescents, and adults and families through trauma, grief and loss, anxiety, depression, and life transitions. Renee also provides business consulting to help leaders create a workplace where both the company and employees thrive. She serves Live Oak UU as the Verger, a board member, and the Vision and Mission Task Force leader. Our minister, Reverend Joanna, will be back in the pulpit August 9th. I'd like to give a special welcome to anyone visiting us for the first time. I encourage you to stop by our table in the Welcome Center, where we can give you a little goodie bag, get you signed up for our weekly email bulletin, and answer any questions you might have. After the service, please stick around for a few minutes, have some coffee. We'd love to get to know you. And next Sunday, you have the opportunity to learn more about Live Oak. After the service, there will be an exploring membership class from 12:15 to 1:30 in the library. This community has events that happen all throughout the week. I encourage you to check the calendar every Sunday and fill out your schedule for the week to come. Go to our website at liveoakuu.org. In the top menu, hover or tap what to expect, and then click Events to see our full calendar of upcoming events. Something you might be interested this week is a community sack lunch on Wednesday, July 29th at noon in the Fellowship Hall. Bring your lunch and join us for community and conversation. Okay. Great. We dedicate these gifts of the work of this congregation, weaving a tapestry of compassion and action, faith and fellowship, hope and wholeness. We dedicate these gifts to the work of this congregation, and we affirm our lives within it. And now an offering will be taken to sustain the work of this church.
It's Chris. Whoa! And the sound came down from the skies. My name is Chris Jarman, and I am the Director of Faith Development, and I use she, her pronouns. Today I brought two hearts with me. The first one that I'm holding in my hand says fear. Have you ever been afraid of something? Have you ever been scared or worried or hurt? Yeah? Yeah. I think we all have at some point, right? When someone's unkind to us, or maybe when they leave us out of a game, or says something hurtful, or anything that might be harmful. Our amazing brains try to protect us. Sometimes we want to yell back, and we want to stomp, and decide that we just don't like that person anymore. You ever done that? My other heart says love. How does that make you feel when I say love versus fear? Happy. Yeah. It makes you feel different things, doesn't it? So here's the thing. Love isn't something we feel. Love is something that we choose. Sometimes that choice is really easy, and sometimes that choice is really hard. And sometimes loving means saying, I forgive you. Sometimes loving means saying, no, I'm not going to let you hurt me, because healthy boundaries are good. And they're loving also. And sometimes loving means helping someone that you'll probably never even meet. And today we're going to practice that kind of love together. Imagine a backpack that belongs to a child getting ready for the first day of school. How do you think they might feel if they open it and they find nothing? What do you think? Just call it out. Sad. Embarrassed. Forgotten. Unprepared, yes. Now I wonder about worth, when we talk about dignity and worth. Yeah, when we think about these things. Now here's the amazing part. One person doesn't have to fix everything. So Apollo's going to help me. And Apollo has a backpack. And Benson's going to help me. And Benson's going to put the notebook right into the backpack. The notebook says, your ideas matter. You can just sit down if you want. And Crystal's going to help me. Crystal has a packet of pencils, and those pencils say, you can learn new things. And Megan's going to help me. Megan has a box of crayons, and the crayons say, your creativity belongs here. And then we have glue sticks. Thank you, Emily. The glue sticks say, we're helping to hold a community together. And then we have markers. And the markers say, the world needs your colorful imagination. And this backpack that Apollo is holding says you deserve to start school with confidence and to know that you are loved. Look at that. We have filled the backpack, but we didn't fill it alone. Each person brought one small gift, and that is how love works. Sometimes we think love has to be one huge heroic act, but more often love grows one small act at a time. One notebook, one box of crayons, one glue stick, one backpack, one kind word, one courageous choice, one person deciding not to answer hate with more hate. It means choosing actions that make the world a little kinder, a little fairer, and a little more hopeful, even when it's hard. Over the next few weeks, this congregation is going to be collecting school supplies for the children in our community. Every backpack, every notebook, every box of crayons is more than a school supply. It's a message. It tells a child that you matter, you belong, your community believes in you, you've got this. And maybe that's one of the simplest and strongest ways we can choose to love anyway. And with that, our story is told. Thank you to all my helpers. Thank you, Father.
Please rise as you're willing and able for our theme hymn, number 299, Make Channels for the Streams of Love. Today's reading is an excerpt from a sermon by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., delivered at the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church. There is something within all of us that causes us to cry out with Ovid, the Latin poet, "I see and approve the better things of life, but the evil things I do." There is something within all of us that causes us to cry out with Plato, that the human personality is like a charioteer with two headstrong horses, each wanting us to go in different directions. There is something within each of us that causes us to cry out with Goethe, "There is enough stuff in me to make both a gentleman and a rogue." There is something within each of us that causes us to cry out with Apostle Paul, "I see and approve the better things of life, but evil things I do." So some of the isness of our present nature is out of harmony with the eternal oughtness that forever confronts us. And this simply means this, that within the best of us, there is some evil, and within the worst of us, there is some good. When we come to see this, we take a different attitude toward individuals. The person who hates you most has some good in him. Even the nation that hates you most has some good in it. Even the race that hates you most has some good in it. And when you come to the point that you look in the face of every man and see deep down within him what religion calls the image of God, you begin to love in spite of. No matter what he does, you see God's image there. There is an element of goodness that he can never slough off. Discover the element of good in your enemy. And as you seek to hate him, find the center of goodness and place your attention there, and you will take a new attitude.
there's a fair bit of in this mic. You pull it down a little bit, please. Yeah. Is that better? It's still doing it a little bit. You know what? Take monitor 4 down just a bit, if you please. You know how to go over and push that right-hand button and pull that down? Yeah, just a bit. Yeah, thank you. My grandmother had 3 sons. She dreamed about her children's children. Then came 1941. Only one son would see the war end. Joseph died marching in Bataan, Frank on the sands of Iwo Jima. The day the bomb destroyed Japan, she thanked God and Harry Truman. She blamed the godless Japanese for having crushed her sweetest dreams. 1,000 candles for my sons. Every day I will remember. You know what? I did that too. It's my bad. Can we move to half a step down? My bad. In Illinois, far from her past, Miss Nakamura still remembers. She was 6 when she saw the flash that turned the world to smoke and ashes. Mother taught her daughter well, run from the fire to the river. There she found a living hell, but not a mother or a father. Though she survived with just a scrape, her family vanished into space. 1,000 sons, 1,000 graves. Every day I will remember. My grandfather had 3 sons. He never dreamed he'd have a daughter. But at the age of 81, she met a nurse named Nakamura. It was a question only meant to make some talk and pass the hours, about a picture by the bed, a photograph of 2 young soldiers. Hatred and anger stored for years slowly melted into tears. 1,000 candles, 1,000 cranes. Every day I will remember. I've a picture in my mind of 2 women slowly walking. August 6, 1985, walking to church to light a candle. And they once asked me to explain why grown men play such foolish games. 1,000 candles, 1,000 cranes. Every day I will remember.
So good to see everyone here this morning. Thank you for being here. Sometimes I find my theology on a t-shirt. As Unitarian Universalists, we are allowed to do that. Today, I'm wearing a shirt bearing the words, "Love Anyway." When I first saw this shirt, I knew right away I had to have one. I had a visceral reaction in my body that love anyway was something I believed, and I believed it strongly. And the proceeds go to a good cause, so it was a win-win. As I thought about what it means to love anyway, I recalled a memory from 7th grade. I was sitting on my bedroom floor, cleaning out my purse and wallet. I sorted out my money from the notes passed back and forth during class about who liked who. I counted my hard-earned babysitting money to see how much I had saved, planning for my next trip to the mall. But the total didn't seem right. It was off. It was less than I expected. I chalked it up to forgetfulness. But it kept happening. Every few days when I counted my money, there were a few more dollars missing. It was enough for me to realize I wasn't misremembering. Someone was stealing from me. In the small Christian school I attended, we had lockers with no locks. My wallet lived in my purse, which lived in my locker during the school day. Call me naive, but I had no reason to believe that anyone would steal from me. I guess we all just trusted each other. When I told the assistant principal of my suspicion, he promised to get to the bottom of it. He told me to come early to school the following day and to be sure to bring money. I showed up as instructed, and he applied an invisible liquid to my $1 bills. He told me to leave them in my wallet, in my purse, in my locker, like I normally did. The next step was to carefully observe the hands of my classmates, because whoever touched these specially marked bills would have a stain on their fingers that couldn't be washed off. And if they tried to wash it off, the stain would spread. And then we would know who was stealing from me. So all during class that day, I slyly stole glances at the hands of the other students. During lunch, I pretended to focus on my food, but I was secretly watching the other students as they ate. And that's when I saw it. Melinda, not her real name, was unwrapping her sandwich with purple fingers. Mystery of the missing money solved. I told the assistant principal. I don't know what was said to Melinda, but the stealing stopped. And I learned not to leave money in unlocked lockers. Duh. But what stands out to me most about this experience was not the stolen money or the short-lived adventure of playing detective. It was the clear and explicit instructions I received from my mother about what was to happen next. She explained in no uncertain terms that I was not to tell anyone about this, not other adults, not other kids, not even my best friend. I was not to embarrass Melinda, shame her, shun her, or treat her any differently because of what she had done. My mom knew how middle school girls can be and how gossip can spread in a small community. And Melinda already struggled to fit in. In fact, the tone and demeanor my mom used when giving me these instructions was so firm and serious that I felt like I was the one who had done something wrong. You know that serious mom voice that moms can get that tells you she's not messing around? That's what was going on here. And though she didn't use those words, I see now that her instruction was to love anyway. Now, my mom, of course, is not the first or only one to promote this idea. Jesus taught, love your enemies. The Buddha taught that hatred is ended only by non-hatred. The Quran calls believers to repel evil with what is better. Jewish, Hindu, Jain, and Sikh traditions encourage responding to hostility with compassion instead of vengeance. But I began to question why. This is another thing Unitarian Universalists are allowed to do. Why should we love anyway, even when we are being wronged? because on the surface it seems counterintuitive, risky, or even dangerous. So here is where I landed. Love is essential to our survival, and I don't mean that in a fluffy spiritual way. There is an evolutionary advantage to responding to hurtful behavior with its opposite. As a community, we simply could not survive if we met every harmful action with revenge. To go tit for tat would result in an endless cycle of mutual destruction. This was demonstrated 30 years ago this summer on a hot Saturday in Ann Arbor, Michigan. The KKK was holding a rally, and not surprisingly for that liberal college town, hundreds of counter-protesters came to make sure they knew they were not welcome. Standing in a fenced-in area set aside for them, the counter-protesters far outnumbered the 15 Klan members. Keisha Thomas was there. She was 18 years old. She had just graduated high school and is African American. She stood with the anti-Klan crowd, shouting, chanting, and holding a sign, standing up for her rights. Albert Keel Jr. was also there. We don't know much about him except that he was 35 years old and white. He had the SS tattoo on his arm referencing the Nazi-affiliated organization, and he was wearing a t-shirt bearing the Confederate flag. It was clear that Albert was there to protest Keisha's very existence. The crowd was angry. Rocks were thrown. The police were watching. Somehow, Albert wound up on what for him was the wrong side of that fence. When he was identified among the counter-protesters, the already charged atmosphere magnified. Realizing he had been spotted, he turned and ran. The counter-protesters gave chase, shouting, "Kill the Nazi!" The crowd caught up to him, knocked him to the ground, and closed in around him. They began kicking his head and hitting him with the wooden stakes from their signs. Witnesses described it as barbaric, like a pack of wolves, as mob mentality took root. But Keisha, who had been part of that chase, runs to Albert and throws herself over him. Her back was to the crowd, her arms were out, absorbing the blows that were meant for Albert and shouting for people to stop. Eventually, the police took Albert to safety. Now imagine for a moment what would have happened if Keisha had not protected Albert. No doubt the violence would have escalated. More people would have been hurt or possibly killed. We might still be talking about that day 30 years later, but for very different reasons. Another reason loving anyway is essential to our survival relates to our health. Our bodies have a built-in response to threat or the perception of threat. Not yet, please. We go into one of two directions, either fight or flight or shut down. When in fight or flight, there is a physiological change in our body that helps us defend ourselves or run from danger. When in shutdown mode, our bodies have a different physiological response that causes us to disconnect and numb out. This is how our body protects us when it recognizes that fighting or fleeing won't work. By shutting down, it helps buffer the effect of something it experiences as too much. Those are hardwired responses to danger. They are necessary and protective, and they are meant to be short-lived. Danger presents itself, nervous system responds, danger goes away, the nervous system resets into a non-activated state. But I worry that we perpetuate the fight, flight, and shutdown states by the kind and amount of news we expose ourselves to, the social media we ingest, the shape of our algorithm. I worry that we stoke the flames of contempt and hatred when we aren't intentional about the content we consume, regardless of where you sit on the political divide. and it's really quite easy to slip into. In part, this is because contempt and hatred can feel protective. It helps us identify the enemy, it energizes us to fight, or it compels us to distance ourselves from those we deem dangerous. Or conversely, we shut down. We give up. We become hopeless and desensitized, too checked out to care, too tired to stand for anything. If our only formula for responding to oppression and injustice is fight and flight or shut down, we put ourselves at risk. Research has shown that chronic anger and hostility keeps us in fight or flight mode, which then dramatically increases our risk of heart attack and stroke. We also know that prolonged resentment floods the body with cortisol and adrenaline, which then weakens the immune system. Likewise, remaining in shutdown mode for an extended period of time has negative consequences. We have difficulty recognizing hunger, pain, or illness. We have sleep disruptions. We have continual fatigue and reduced motivation. These nervous system responses also affect how we think and process information. Has anyone here ever had a heated exchange with someone, maybe a family member or a friend, and then when you come back later to talk about it, you have two completely different versions of what was said? That's because when we get activated, the thinking brain takes a back seat while energy is directed to the muscles that can help us fight or run. And when that happens, we don't hear correctly. We don't digest information accurately. Our thinking is less clear, and our judgment is skewed. All of this means that if we aren't careful, our nervous systems can hijack our intentions. If we continually stew in the juices of hate, we become a weapon against ourselves, thwarting our efforts to create a better world. Science has also shown that love, be it a feeling or action, helps us remain in a non-activated state, what psychologists call the window of tolerance. Love and compassion decreases our stress hormones and settles the nervous system. It promotes heart health and strengthens the immune system. Also, when in our window of tolerance, we are able to be curious. We are able to learn. We can see multiple perspectives. And we can choose how we respond, not react. So choosing to love anyway is not passive surrender, but rather a radical act of nervous system regulation. It's how we make sure that our fight against injustice doesn't destroy us from the inside out. While our nervous systems are wired to protect us as individuals, I like to believe there is an even deeper instinct that invites us to protect the whole, a reflex that reminds us that our well-being is bound up with one another's. I think this was Keisha's instinct. When interviewed about the incident, she said, "When they dropped him to the ground, it felt like two angels had lifted my body up and laid me down." She likened her reaction to how a mother would respond to seeing her child being hurt. It was the right thing to do, she said. He was still a human being. In addition to ensuring our survival, there is a rich history of using love as a deliberate strategy for dismantling systems of injustice. It's a calculated response. When we choose love over hate and retaliation, we maintain the moral high ground. When we respond according to our value of love, we don't surrender our power. Quite the opposite. We make it harder for the other side to dismiss our message, question our credibility, or distract from the harm they have caused. It keeps the focus on the injustices being done. It also helps us attract allies and neutral bystanders, thus broadening our coalition. The day after that rally in Ann Arbor, the local paper ran two headlines about the incident. One read, "Woman acted to break mob mentality." which told the story about Keisha protecting Albert. The other read, Klan got what they wanted. Wizard says KKK will return. Notice which headline is more prominent. At the time, the big story was about the violence of the counter-protesters. This is what the Grand Wizard of the KKK was quoted as saying about what happened that day. There are a bunch of wild animals in that town. They've got no right to destroy property, throw rocks, and try to bust people's heads open. We just went there for our First Amendment rights. As far as I'm concerned, those people were the hate group out there, not us. So the KKK got press coverage and got to posture themselves as the good guys. As Dr. Martin Luther King urged, we must be sure that in our efforts to promote justice, that we do not become like the oppressors. Also, love greases the wheels of transformation. It makes a change of heart possible, not guaranteed, but possible. Months after the Ann Arbor rally, Keisha was approached in a coffee shop by a young man who thanked her. She didn't know him and was confused, so she asked, "Thank you for what?" "That was my dad," he said, referencing Albert Peel. So imagine for a moment about what would have happened if the mob had killed this young man's father. What rage would he have inherited? What story would he have handed down about people who look like Keisha? Hatred and contempt, or love and compassion? What strategy do you think is more effective? Now, let me be clear. I'm going to put my serious mom voice on for a minute. Loving anyway does not mean we are passive to injustice, and the injustice is done to ourselves or others. This is not a directive to stay in unhealthy relationships or toxic environments or put yourself in harm's way, because that wouldn't be loving to yourself. You too are part of this equation, and you can't love others if you don't love yourself. What it means to love ourselves is a whole other sermon, but it is where the work of loving others begins. This is why personal boundaries are so important. My favorite definition of a boundary is by Prentice Hemphill, who says, "Boundaries are the distance at which I can love you and me simultaneously." Boundaries don't limit love. They make it possible, even with people who can wound us. Now, I am not saying this is easy by any means. It's one thing to love anyway when our partner disappoints us or a friend lets us down, and it's another thing entirely to love someone who wants to hurt you. And let's be honest, it doesn't come without risk. For several years after that rally, Keisha received hate mail and death threats from people who believed she shouldn't have intervened to protect Albert. And tragically for some, choosing to love anyway has cost them their lives. So how do we love anyway? When I first heard Keisha's story, I wondered if I would have responded the way she did. I'd like to think so, but if I'm honest, probably not. But I can love anyway, in any way that I can. Keisha herself, who remains an activist, says grand gestures are not needed, but it's micro acts of kindness that matter. She said it can come down to eye contact or a smile. It doesn't have to be a huge monumental act. But even that sounds hard in these divisive times. Could you smile at someone wearing a red campaign baseball hat? Could you hold the door open for someone wearing a t-shirt supporting everything you stand against? Could you wave someone into traffic even if their car is brandishing a Confederate flag? If we are going to be people of integrity and truly live our values, if the causes that we hold dear really matter to us, I think we have to try. Because choosing to love anyway is not a betrayal of our values and the conditions we want to see in the world. It's an affirmation of them. As Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel wrote, prayer cannot bring water to parched fields or mend a broken bridge or rebuild a ruined city. But prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, and rebuild a weakened will. I would add that this is where we give words to the yearning of our hearts. In that spirit, let us pray. Spirit of love, we invite you into our minds, into our bodies, into our hearts. Help us recognize our common humanity across differences, and to remember that we are all connected like threads in a single tapestry, each of us part of the whole. Help us access that cosmic instinct that compels us to protect all of creation, and to practice love with ourselves, with each other, and with our adversaries. May we remain faithful in our pursuit of a world where all souls are treasured and treated with dignity. We give thanks for the blessings of love in our lives and for the chance we have to love again, love anyway, and love always. Amen and blessed be. Being in a community, we share our lives with each other, including the significant milestones, joys, and sorrows. Today, Emily shares, my mom, grandma, is at the end of life. Please pray for our family. Bill Dower says, thinking about Lindy at home after a fall. Thankful for the musicians who help keep my spirits up. Marie Jimenez says, please keep my sister-in-law and her family in your thoughts as her stepdad transitions to hospice care. Melissa Zaratny says, very proud of my awesome husband, Mark. He released a workbook for his first published book, Reach Out, and is working on the audio version. This is from Kim. Please keep my nephew in prayer. He is struggling with alcohol addiction. And Barbara Frizzell has a joy that John and I celebrated our 25th anniversary on Tuesday. We both agreed we'd do it all over again. And I have a joy that my youngest son is back from his epic road trip. He got to see 15 national parks, and he celebrates his 22nd birthday tomorrow. May we bear witness to the concerns both expressed and silent in our hearts. Amen and blessed be. Please join me in singing. Okay, we're doing it. We're always in beta. Election season is approaching. The rhetoric trying to dehumanize us and those we love will escalate. We will likely feel threatened, and our nervous systems will be bombarded with messages designed to provoke fear, anger, and contempt. We will be tested. When that happens, remember who you are and what you believe in. Our faith, with love at the center, does not require us to surrender our convictions. It does not ask us to ignore or remain silent in the face of injustice. But it does ask us to resist becoming the very thing we are fighting against. Do not let any politician, movement, or ideology cause you to abandon your deepest values or convince you that contempt is stronger than love. Hold fast to your humanity. Love yourself. Care for your nervous system. And protect your heart without closing it. And whatever happens, choose to love anyway.
Okay, Cap, we'll switch it back up and go to Love Will Guide Us.
Which is hymn number 131.
There we
in
go.
case you're wondering.
Let's extinguishing. Benson, if you could come extinguish the chalice, please. Thank you. Let us say these words to each other as we extinguish our chalice. Take courage, friends. The way is often hard, the path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. Take courage, for deep down there is another truth. You are not alone. It has been a gift to be together today. Thank you to today's home team. That stands for Hospitality and Membership Team, who provided hospitality and worship and tech leadership. Thank you, Cap, Dory, Barbara, Benson, Judy, Mary, Nancy, Marie, and Sage. Thank you so much. And special thanks to Megan Matson for the beautiful flowers on our chancel today. We'll have a postlude from our band, and after that postlude, we'll continue the hospitality by spending that next 5 minutes after talking with someone we don't know. Members, be sure to introduce yourself to any first-time visitors. They're the ones with the handwritten name tags. And show them where the visitors table and the coffee are. And may we all know the blessings of fellowship.
If you don't like it, then get the hell out. That's what they yell when I open my mouth. A stick is a stick, a stone is a stone.
But who's gonna care if I don't? Who's gonna change if I won't? When time turns us moment to dust, I just hope that I'm proud of the woman I was when lines of tomorrow are drawn. Can I live with the side that I chose to be on?
We sit on our hands, do nothing about it. Or will we
Leave this world better than we found it. we're over a barrel at the end of 1 tube. When time turns this moment to dust, I just hope that I'm proud of the woman I was. When lines of tomorrow are drawn, can I live with the side that I chose to be on?
We sit on our hands, do nothing about it. Or will we
Leave this world better than we found it. America, America, divided we fall. America, America, God save us all.
the hell that we built for our kids?
America, America, we're better than this.
When
Time turns this moment to dust, I just hope that